Hey everyone, this is Vito from NYFM to give a brief intro to our Spider-Man 2 episode and a small caveat. So this was our second episode, and as we learn more about podcasting and sound editing, the quality of our show will grow and already has grown. So my caveat is we had our mics adjusted wrong and the sound quality definitely suffered. We were able to fix it about 20 minutes in, but I apologize for the bad audio up front. Newbies recording in a socially distant time, right? Anyway, please enjoy what I think is still a fun discussion and know that we are consistently striving to improve. Thanks for listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Not Your Father's Movies. We're doing today Spider-Man 2 from 2004. I'm Vito.
I'm Mike.
I'm Jesse.
And on Not Your Father's Movies, what we're trying to do is look at the canon of established dad movies. Movies that we all remember from lazy Saturday afternoons. Just classics going all the way back to our grandfather's era, moving forward into movies that maybe have been a little bit forgotten, and then trying to forge a new path forward, trying to figure out what's the new dad canon. And now in our second episode of our Spider-Man trilogy miniseries, we have what I think is probably, I guess, more of a classic than the first Spider-Man. What do you guys think?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I love the diversity of opinion. I would have to say that I'm probably firmly right in the middle of you guys. I don't want to pick a side.
Yes, and maybe is a middle ground.
Yes, yeah. There's a really strong almost. That's where I'm sitting. But it's talking about Spider-Man 2 from 2004. This is, of course, the second of the Spider-Man movies directed by Sam Raimi, written by Alfred Gough, Miles Miller, Michael Chabon, and then the screenplay itself done by Alvin Sargent. Sorry if I got any of those names garbled. That's likely. It's starring Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Alfred Molina, Rosemary Harris, and J.K. Simmons. He gets mentioned here because while he had a little bit of a bit part in the first Spider-Man, he is clearly, if he's not on the poster, I don't know what we're doing. The work that he's doing in this movie, guys, it's a lot.
It's amazing.
I love it.
He steals the camera every time.
Yes. And what's funny is that there's actually multiple scenes where he just sort of leans in or he's around and you're like, oh yeah, there he is. I want to watch him.
His head pops into view.
Yes.
Literally, that's what happens at the wedding scene.
Yes. The eye frames his way into the shot.
Call Deborah.
Yes. Tell her not to open the caviar.
The caterer?
Right before we start out, though, at the gate, I do want to make a correction from our last episode. As was pointed out by somebody, I said that The Amazing Spider-Man was released in 2010, and it is in fact released in 2012. My apologies. But getting into it, let's toss it right to Jesse and say, hey, what is this movie about? What happens in it? And could you tell us more about
I really want to.
what the movie
is
about?
Okay.
This sort of a step-by-step.
This is taking place, I think, 2 years after the original Spider-Man. Peter Parker.
That seems to be correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
They specify in the movie. She says, Uncle Ben died almost 2 years ago.
Wait. Hang on. Could you check on that? I'm sorry. We just have to wait.
Okay, wait. No, I'm getting confirmation from my secretary saying that is indeed correct.
But you're not wearing an earpiece, and I am.
No, do you see me doing this motion to my ear?
Well, you're just motioning into your ear. I have an earpiece in. Okay, sorry, the computer's collating.
But my secretary says I'm right. So, 2 years after Spider-Man 1, Peter Parker is struggling to deal with his responsibility to be Spider-Man and have a job where he delivers pizzas.
And I'm hearing back from my secretary that it is, in fact, 2 years later.
Oh, yes, good. I'm glad you confirmed that I'm correct. Yeah, thank you.
So he's delivering pizzas.
Delivering pizzas and also struggling to be a student, and he's failing. He gets fired at the pizza place, is getting failing grades, and he gets an offer from Harry Osborn, still his friend, even though Harry hates him because he's somehow connected with Spider-Man.
With the
Harry
bug.
knows it. With the bug.
The bug.
And he goes and interviews Dr. Otto Octavius about fusion of some sort.
Not clear.
Yeah, it's really not clear. I don't know why any college student is writing a paper on nuclear fusion.
Not clear. It's nuclear, man. They just said
just
fusion.
Things are fusing together or apart.
I'm not
I
sure.
don't know.
There's a fusing taking place in an undefined way with undefined materials.
Well, it's supposed to be defined, but
And
unfortunately,
apparently, no radiation is coming out of this thing because nobody's dying from this little sun that they make when they do this test run that goes horribly wrong. And Dr. Otto Octavius has made these special arms where he's able to control the crazy waves that come out of this little sun that he's generated. And it's got a little inhibitor chip that doesn't allow the arms to take control of his mind because they have crazy AI. So when the doctors tried to cut them off after this crazy accident, he goes ballistic in this wonderful scene that is classical horror where he demolishes all the doctors.
My favorite scene.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That scene is actually like one of the most like foundational horror scenes that I have any knowledge of. I want it to be taught in classes. The way that the camera moves, the different pan ins, the use of shadow is just incredible. Sorry to interrupt you. That scene especially, I just wanted to nerd out about.
Yeah, I mean, you see people die in the shadows, and then the nails scraping across the floor,
gosh.
being dragged back.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, it's super creepy. So Doc Ock.
Doc Ock. You're a genius.
It's crap.
Yeah, it's crap. Right, it's crap.
He goes off and wants to make a new sun again, except bigger this time. At least that's what his mechanical arms are telling him to do. Yeah. So he goes off, robs banks, and Spider-Man at the same time is struggling whether or not he really wants to be Spider-Man, because maybe he wants to succeed at college, maybe get Mary Jane, the love of his life, and ultimately decides not to, right as Doc Ock is robbing banks and creating this amazing machine. And that leads to Doc Ock wanting to get the material that he needs from Harry, and Harry says, no, I won't give it to you unless you give me Spider-Man. So he goes to get Peter Parker, who gets his powers back in this coffee shop scene where he saves Mary Jane from a card that Doc Ock flings at them.
Not really sure. By the way, just brief sidebar. The geography of that scene is really puzzling to me because we can get into it more later. The car comes through the window, and then there's a big like Jurassic Park style build-up into Doc Ock coming into frame. So I'm really not sure where the car comes from, but he's like a half a block away, but you can see clearly out the window that there's no one in sight. But then it zooms in the legs, and he's walking right at the window. I'm just not sure where anyone's supposed to be. No, so it's like it's a stupid nitpick, but also it was enough of a nitpick where I was taken out of the movie. And
the visuals of the car coming through the window are amazing.
Oh, and then the slow-mo save of Mary Jane where they're like literally spinning through the air.
And the way he just barely turns out of the way of the wheel in time, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
So he comes to Peter Parker, and he says, I want you to tell Spider-Man that I'm going to flay the flesh off of her if he doesn't meet me at this tower at 3 o'clock.
Yep.
So
and then throws him so hard into a brick wall.
That scene doesn't make any sense. First off, why does he throw the car? When he clearly wants Peter Parker alive, but he throws a car at him.
He knows he's not Spider-Man, which is what I just love the fact that I want the Robot Chicken version of the scene where he throws Peter Parker at the wall and Peter Parker like explodes.
He's literally covered in rubble.
Yes.
Yeah, and then explodes out of it in the movie. That is definitely a nitpick for me. But he chooses in that moment to be Spider-Man, and he meets Doc Ock. They have a crazy fight scene. There's a whole subway scene where he saves the subway with the
elevated train.
All right, fine, train. Yes.
Well, no, it's an elevated train. It's not a subway. Train.
Oh, you're right.
That's not a subterranean way.
I was wrong.
It's an elevated motor vehicle.
I don't live in New York. I don't ride on subways. I call every train a subway.
They're also in many major metropolitan cities.
What about like Amtrak's? Are those subways? Those are trains.
They go through tunnels.
But interesting. I didn't know this about you.
No, I am just going to drop this right now. I'm literally going to drop it.
That's good. No. What I was more wanting to focus on is that fight, though, is for the second scene in the movie that I think is incredible. One of the best train fight sequences I've ever seen. It's one of the most thrilling pieces of work. So well edited, so well cut together. And then, like, it actually shows some real wear and tear on his costume, which we love now because of the first Spider-Man, where, like, half of the mask burns away.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, there's a scene where the mask catches fire, and he's like, oh, shit, my mask's on fire. He takes it off. And then is not worried about it. No, he's like, there's more important things. And other people in the subway are not worried about it either at the time. They're just like, you're going to help us. That's great. I'm so happy.
We are so happy we're not going to die. Maybe.
But there's enough also, like, New Yorker in them where he tries one thing and it doesn't work. Like, any other bright ideas? I have a few. I'm working on it. I have a few. Sticking my leg into the track was number one, but it's clearly not the only one.
I love how he sits there clutching his knee, too, because that totally really would hurt.
Yeah.
But also just makes me think of Family Guy.
Every time.
It's so long. It's painful.
And then, so at the end of that scene, Doc Ock captures Spider-Man, brings him to Harry. Harry figures out who Spider-Man is and is really conflicted about killing his best friend.
For sure.
And gives up Doc Ock's location. Spider-Man goes, meets Doc Ock, convinces him to do the right thing. Doc Ock sacrifices himself to bring down the new son that he's created. Yep. Mary Jane figures out that Spider-Man is her best friend, love interest, Peter Parker.
Because his mask is off.
Yeah,
that's how she figures that one out. Good detective work, Mary Jane.
Yeah. And then he saves her. She has a wedding that's planned. She abandons it, runs to him in her wedding dress.
Central Park.
Yeah,
in her wedding dress.
It's super cheesy.
She's so happy,
but I wanted it so much.
I do wonder, pre-COVID times, how many times a bride has run through Central Park.
It seems to happen a lot in the movies.
I mean, it just can't be. It can't be that uncommon. You're a New Yorker going about your day. If you're in New York, please let us know. But you're going about your day, and a woman just runs past you in a wedding dress, and you just go, I guess it's Thursday.
And then she comes to his apartment, confesses her love for him. He basically does the same thing back, and he hears sirens. She says, "Go get him, Tiger," and he swings away as Spider-Man. And Spider-Man 2.
Boom, boom, boom. Oh, and then sorry. And I am vindicated. I am selfish. I am wrong.
It's so good. It's so good. It's the best. It's amazing.
I mean, it's the end credit.
I mean, if we use vindicated and say good equivocally to mean bad, it is good. And we can all agree on that.
No, we can't. It's amazing.
Mike, hang on, ready? Vindicated in Mike's Dashboard Confessional Corner. Where does this land for you on top 5 Dashboard Confessional songs?
Ooh, I'd say number 2, right after Hands Down.
Hands Down. It's
so good. So good.
I can't even finish my sentence.
No, I think that is hands down the best Dashboard Confessional song.
Is there a best? Can you speak of best when speaking of Dashboard Confessional?
14-year-old Mike thought that it was the best.
But we leave these things behind, Mike.
No. You've got to be who you are and grow with that.
I guess my closest analogous is that I still sort of jam out to Dance Dance every now and then by Fall Out Boy. So I guess, look, I bought the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack, and I definitely listened to Vindicated, and I definitely sang it about a girl in my life at that time, and how she realized that she actually did like me. And I did sing that without a trace of irony. That's beautiful.
That makes me so happy.
That does not make me happy. Oh man, so wonderful recap, and also thank you, Mike, for Dashboard Confessional Corner. We'll check back in if we ever cover another movie with Dashboard Confessional in the soundtrack.
I don't know if it's possible.
I don't know. Does the next one have one?
I don't know.
Does Spider-Man 3 have a Dashboard Confessional song? I don't remember.
Not that I know of.
I think it's Snow Patrol. I think the new Dashboard Confessional is Snow Patrol.
That's right. Kind of tanked on Snow
I
Patrol.
kind of like Snow Patrol a little bit. Well,
I did.
So stay
So
tuned.
much for taste.
Stay tuned next episode for Vito's Snow Patrol Corner, where I will definitively rank the top 5 Snow Patrol songs.
If that is in fact the song of Spider-Man 3, because we don't know.
No, it is. It's Signal Fire.
I didn't even know it had a name.
It has the piano, and it goes like, "You are my signal fire." You not remember that?
It doesn't even ring a bell.
All right.
It was forgettable, is what Jesse is saying.
So what I'm trying
forgettable.
So the teaser trailer for next week's Snow Patrol Spotlight is off to running success. I cannot wait for you all to be here for it. I will make these guys listen to it. I will also be sending out a Spotify podcast detailing the top 100 Snow Patrol episodes. Going though, great overview. Favorite scenes? What are we thinking?
Favorite scenes. I love the train scene is just incredible.
Sure.
It's so amazing. Watching them go up and down on the side. They're fighting on the side of the train. They're using this whole other dimension to fight, which is really cool. You don't see that often.
Yeah.
And they do it in such a good way. How you're able to you get a sense of where people are very well.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. You don't ever think like, how could he do that there?
I did think that literally one
you
time.
did.
Doc Ock throws Spider-Man forward, right? Forward with the train. And Spider-Man flies through the air and ends up landing on Doc Ock. But that doesn't make sense.
But isn't the train moving?
The train is moving, but it's moving with the same velocity of the train when he throws him.
So
he should be landing
but it
forward.
decreases rapidly. Because
Yes.
we don't know how fast the train is going. We don't know how hard he was thrown.
But this is
Show your work,
Spider-Man.
Jesse.
He doesn't decrease in velocity.
I think Superman. Superman
Yes.
doesn't decrease in
But I was going to
velocity.
say, if Spider-Man, if one of his superpowers was not decreasing in velocity, he would be very dangerous.
That'd be a horrible superpower. You cannot slow down.
That's the Flash.
Yeah,
basically.
Well, it's also it's like the scene in The Boys.
No, the Flash can slow down.
It's
possible for him to slow down.
This is the plot of the movie Speed.
Oh yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, but except here, it's a little bit more than 55 miles an hour. I think is what we're led to believe.
I think, yeah.
All right, so train sequence. I love that sequence too. I especially
Fantastic.
I do like that you are going in and out of the train. You're going inside of it. You're going on top of it. Doc Ock is on top, shooting into it with his arms.
Oh yeah.
And then the whole thing where Doc Ock's like, all right, we're sort of done with this fight. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm now going to make you deal with a runaway train.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it does that bit where Peter has to take off his mask. It's on fire. And he goes and looks straight ahead. And the camera shoots along like through what's ostensibly maybe a couple miles of track before it hits the bumper, right?
Yeah.
And it zooms in so far that you see the lettering on the bumper.
Yeah.
And then zooms back out so that you're like, oh, it's that far, and that's what they're going to hit. And I get the visual geography very well. We have a straight line from here to eternity. And then what do we do about that? Let's do some tests.
Yeah.
Let's try some shit. I don't know what's going to happen.
He tries some stuff out. He sticks his feet onto the tracks and doesn't really work. And the New Yorkers also let him know that it didn't work.
Just in case he didn't know.
Just in case he didn't notice.
Yeah.
Any other bright ideas?
And then we get the most iconic scene, I think, in the Spider-Man trilogy. I think it's safe to say with him
Squirting his webs. Squirting.
I did say it. You said it. He shoots a bunch of webs out.
Yes, he does.
And then is literally being crushed by his own webs against the train.
The train's crumbling behind him.
It's literally crumbling. Yeah.
Cruciform.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. And
he's dying. He's dying for the sins of the city.
You see, and like the whole fight scene, it's made so much more physical because you see his outfit get more and more like torn in different places, and right there you see it rip right
his
above
bicep.
the biceps.
Yeah.
And you feel like, oh, his biceps are tearing.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I loved everything about it. And I also like that this is probably like the most acting that I think Tobey Maguire is really asked to do. It's really intense and really big and really broad. I really enjoy it when he goes that far.
The acting is, all right, Tobey Maguire, you're going to take a massive poop.
Yes. Yes. I was looking at it and I was like, I've made that face before.
Now, that face plastered on the train. There you go. It's not just any poop. The biggest poop of your life.
You're pooping a train.
Yeah, that scene is so... I'm laughing way too hard about this.
like a 19-car subway train. Okay. So my wonderful.
But just to finish the scene.
Yeah.
So then he passes out. He passes out at the end. He stops the train. They're inches away from the end of the track and from just certain destruction. He passes out. He doesn't have his mask on, and the New Yorkers pass him back like a dead man, like a casket. Which is it's a little campy, but also like really beautiful. At the same time, they put him down, and they're like, "Well, we're not going to tell anybody who he is. Who is he? He's just a kid." And he sort of starts to come to. Doc Ock comes in, and all the New Yorkers are New Yorker thing.
You're gonna have to go through me first.
Yeah, and he says, "Okay." He splits him apart with his arms, knocks Peter out, and takes him to his lair.
Yeah.
Yeah. That scene is wonderful.
So I do love that one. My nomination for favorite, I guess, just overall scene is I got two. I love the sequence of the B.J. Thomas's what's the song?
Raindrops keep falling on my head.
I love that. I love the way it starts, which is Peter's walking. He's a normal boy now, just a normal lad out and about. And the first thing that happens, because this movie's modus operandi is to relentlessly dunk on Peter, is that he trips instantly and almost falls over, and in a humiliating rite of passage, stands back up and tries to pretend that nothing happened to him.
And we've all been there.
Yeah,
We've all been there.
We've also all bought a hot dog from a hot dog vendor, seen cop cars go by, and just eat it. Just eat the hot dog and go about our lives. I do love that sequence.
We've all seen a mugging and walked on.
Just watch the man get like brutally beaten.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Pretty horrible.
I don't know if that guy survived that, but Peter does not care. He is a normal boy. A normal
Shrugs
boy
his
in New York
shoulders
City.
and moves along.
And so that's my first nomination. And then my second one is the fight between him and Doc Ock after Doc Ock has taken Aunt May prisoner after the bank
Oh
robbery.
yeah, that's fantastic.
I like that scene a lot. I like any of the scenes because I think they're really smart. They know pretty quickly in the bank that Doc Ock is such a big character that they can't keep him inside a building for a fight.
Yeah.
It has to be outside. And because of Peter's, both their wall climbing abilities, it can't be on a level ground, because why would they ever be on level ground with each other? There's no advantages to that. You have to use gravity as your ally. And so all their fights are always, one of them is on top of something and the other one is climbing, or they're both climbing, or they're both falling. Like, it's always about how can we gain the upper hand in like the most difficult fight terrain possible. And I like that scene a lot because it does experiment a lot with the up and down, in and out of buildings. It has the thing where he throws Peter across the street into the other building. He uses his little trebuchet action to shoot back across, but then
it doesn't work this time.
It doesn't, because Doc Ock's ready. Except that you can't anticipate Aunt May. She's going to club you with an umbrella.
That's a great scene.
I like all of that, and even though the CGI, I have to admit right here, okay, we all have to admit, the CGI in this movie is pretty crummy.
It did not age well.
It sucks. It looks like the Lord of the Rings video games that used to be on the GameCube.
Which were awesome.
Great games.
Yeah, they were great.
Terribly. It just looks awful now. It's muddy and rubbery, and it doesn't look like a person at any moment.
Yeah. They're using a lot more of it this time around than in Spider-Man 1. Like, a lot of it is CGI.
And I think that the fights are better, though. And I think that's because, like, in both of those movies, your villain happens to be, like, a man in his late 30s, early 40s, who is not an action movie actor. He's a celebrated, accomplished actor. Yeah. And so you get him for his gravitas. But, like, taking one look at Alfred Molina, no disrespect to the man, but that is not a guy that can do these stunts.
And also, he never does anything. He just literally stands there and his arms do all the work.
Yes. And I think that's why you get a guy like that for it, and you just say, hey, we got CGI, we can just do that. And it works. It's a product of its time. I think it's good. I don't think that it ages well, but I think that it's still very compelling.
Yeah. Even though the CGI was really bad, it kind of went along with the campiness of Spider-Man enough to make me say, to not take me out of the movie too much. Sure. Yeah.
It's almost like the camp of the first movie is in the practical effects and the camp of the second one is in its CG.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, anyway, those are my two. What do you got, Jesse?
Well, I think we already talked about it a little bit, but one of my first two is the Doc Ock scene when he first comes to be Doc Ock and his arms are going crazy on all the doctors.
It's a scene that's so good. The reason I didn't pick it is because it almost doesn't belong in this movie. It turns into another movie for about 3 minutes.
But it does something super important for the Doc Ock villain, which is like you understand this guy's really dangerous.
Yeah.
Like if you just told me there's a villain with 4 mechanical arms on his back, it's like that's not a big deal.
Sure.
And then you see him just take a room apart and brutally murder all these people.
Yeah.
And also what's really cool is they have this shot of just Doc Ock's eyes, right? And he's blindfolded. He's not doing anything.
His body's actually sort of like
wiggling.
Unconsciously.
Jostling side to side.
Because the arms are alive. He's almost not.
Yeah. Which also sets you up to realize he's going to go crazy because the arms are in full control now.
Sure. The inhibitor chip, the little LED light that was back there is not there.
Yeah.
No more LED.
Yeah.
So I think that I love that scene, especially in this movie, just because it establishes Doc Ock as one of the scariest villains you've ever encountered before.
You're right. You're right. It does function well in the movie. I did want to talk about the scene a little bit more, knowing Sam Raimi's background in the Evil Dead movies, which I'm a huge fan of and have been for a long time. It's funny watching this movie in comparison to Evil Dead 2, trying to draw a line between them because they're both very funny.
Yeah,
they both have moments that seem kind of out of nowhere and not of a piece with the movie, but in the end, you sort of get the grand tapestry of what it is he's doing. And in a way, too, this is building more on the themes of the first movie, but also kind of redoing a lot of those. While Mary Jane and Peter's relationship has matured, we're still dancing around the same things. She's doing the same things to him here that she was really trying to do in the last movie. The only difference I feel is that she's more intentionally targeting him. Before it was a dance between does MJ like me or not? Now it's MJ likes me. I don't know if I can do it. And so I think in the same way that Sam Raimi sort of remade Evil Dead 1 with Evil Dead 2, I see some of those similarities here where he's updating his old material and adding a bunch of new stuff to it to change it. And I think that just like in Evil Dead 2 with the bravura sequence with the all the furniture laughing with Ash, I think that sequence here is this operating table scene. It seems like it comes out of nowhere. It wins the whole movie. But also when you take a look back at it, you go, where did that scene even come from?
And where did it go?
It
just doesn't happen again.
No.
Well, it doesn't. Well, it stays with me the rest of the movie.
It's set up.
That's true.
Yeah. Because now I know Doc Ock, you don't want to mess with this guy. He's going to tear you apart limb from limb. When he says he can flay the flesh off of Mary Jane's bones, I believe it.
Yeah. Sure. But I do just want to call it I know it's fun in just the way that Evil Dead 2 is also fun, and the changing of tones and genres too, because it stops being the movie it's being, does this other thing for a minute and then comes back, and it works, but it was jarring. I guess, watching it again.
It is,
Because it really does come out of complete left field.
Yeah. But I think it's kind of what elevates Spider-Man 2 to be a better movie than it otherwise would have been for having it in there. And there's one other scene that I think does that as well. And it's a really hard scene to watch. It's the conversation that Peter Parker has with Aunt May.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, finally admitting that he was there when Uncle Ben died, and he is in some way the cause of it. Because
I am responsible.
Yeah, he says, I am responsible, and he tells everything. Like, I did it because I was trying to win money to impress Mary Jane to buy a car.
Yeah, because he saw Flash Thompson have the car, and then she comes out and gets in. And he's like, look at this nice new car, Flash.
Yeah. And that scene is kind of uncomfortable to watch. But also, it finally does the thing that I wanted, that you would want any sequel to do, which is like tie up a loose end from the last one. Because you don't see anything that him and Aunt May talk about.
Yeah.
And in this conversation, what's worst is she doesn't say anything. He tries to hold her hand, and she pulls it away.
And gets
goes
up
upstairs
and leaves. Yeah.
And shuts the door to her room. And that's it.
Yep.
I think this kind of sums up why I love Spider-Man 2 so much. This is taking all the camp and setup from Spider-Man 1 and saying, okay, well, given the fact that we have all these crazy characters doing the crazy things, like, how would real people respond to all this in an insane world?
Yeah.
And you're finally getting that. I'm finally getting the answer to that with this sort of conversation that he has with Aunt May.
Yeah.
I think those are great picks.
I think that you're totally right. And the whole movie is really, we've got all the crazy fights and everything, but it's really about that. Peter and everyone kind of dealing with the fallout still from what happened in Spider-Man 1.
Yeah.
With kind of that conversation is the crisis moment of that story. Right. Yeah.
I think it's a really smart movie really smart move that the movie does, especially, getting to the technical aspect very briefly again. They switched main screenwriters from David Koepp to Alvin Sargent, who famously has written, well, the last 3 movies he wrote was Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, and The Amazing Spider-Man, which is really funny. But prior to that, he wrote Unfaithful, the erotic thriller with Diane Lane, and then Ordinary People, though, which is, I believe, the movie that Robert Redford won his directing Oscar for. But it's an intense drama about a family. And actually, if you look back at his filmography, it's not action oriented. It's very human drama oriented.
Yeah.
He wrote, he's credited as a writer on Peter Bogdanovich's Paper Moon back in the 1970s. So he's been around a long time. He's an old hand. His last film was The Amazing Spider-Man in 2012. He just dedicated the last years of his working life to these movies, and he passed away. And I think that's really interesting to look at, is the elevation and the focus on these one-to-one interactions in the movie. There's not almost any group scenes. And when there is a group scene, they work really hard to make sure it stops being that. Like when Peter comes home and it's his birthday and they go, surprise. Yeah. And then immediately Aunt May is like, Mary Jane, join me in the kitchen, so that Peter and Harry can have a conversation. Everything is about driving drama between 2 characters at all times, making that thing happen. And I think that's a really great approach that was not really present in the last one, and it made the last one's dramatic scenes seem kind of meandering. The last one did the one-on-one stuff really great, like Norman being alone with his thoughts and with his other twisted personality.
Yeah.
Which is a scene we did not give enough credit to in our last episode. But this one, there's not a lot of introspection. There's not a lot of that one character by himself, unless it's Peter just messing up. And what's funny is that in those scenes, it doesn't feel like Peter's alone. It feels like New York is the other character. And as I said before, New York is relentlessly dunking on Peter.
Beating him up.
Like when he thinks he has his powers back and screams, I'm back, I'm back. And then falls really hard.
really far.
And onto some cars, and he bounces between two cars, and then says, "My back."
And gets up, my back.
And the car alarm goes off.
Oh, that's the worst thing that can happen to you.
And I really like that because it's never just a one guy being alone with himself. It's like even his environment is a character, an actual character. Like in Final Destination, how death is a character. That's how New York feels to Peter Parker.
Actually, Aunt May talks about this later when she says like everybody has a hero in them.
Oh yeah.
That's like pointing them to the right thing to do. That's paraphrasing. I can't remember the exact quote.
That.
But you also see that a little earlier when it's just Peter Parker sitting alone in his bed, and then his mind flashes to the last conversation he ever had with his Uncle Ben, only it's not that conversation. They're wearing the same clothes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the same, but this time he's refusing to be Spider-Man.
Yep.
Because even when he's alone, he constantly has that internal monologue with Uncle Ben, who is his hero, and drives him to be who he wants and needs to be.
Yeah. No, I think it's much better writing. No offense to you, Sir David Koepp. Not a sir, you're a mister. But I think that this movie is more dramatic and is better written and it is more interesting in what it's trying to do. Anyway, I think that's what we got for favorite scenes. Anything else? Any little addendums you want to add?
I'll add one addendum. The scene right at the beginning. The opening scene when Peter is racing to try to save his job and get the pizza to the law firm or marketing agency or wherever it is.
Wherever it is that Emily Deschanel works.
Yeah, Emily Deschanel is working there. And he tries to make his way through New York, and all this stuff is happening, and he saves a couple of kids' lives, and gives a guy a pizza for a moment and then takes it away, and people say he stole that guy's pizza.
Kind of letting you know how New York is going to act towards him.
Yeah, pretty much. And then it culminates in what is maybe the best scene in the movie. He's in a broom closet, and he tries to get out of the broom closet, and the brooms will not let him go. They just keep falling on him. It's like a good 2 minutes of brooms
a long time.
Not going back in. He finally gets it shut. He walks up to the counter and says, "Here's the pizzas."
And then she looks over her shoulder and goes,
"He's 3 minutes late."
Yeah.
I'm not paying for those.
And then he just takes his bungee cords off the smooshed pizzas. They do not look good. I would not pay for those either, but not because of the time. I just would not pay for a product.
Say, this is not pizza.
It used to be. This is X pizza.
This is now garbage.
It's hot garbage. Hot, tasty, cheesy garbage. So what I did want to sort of move into talking about, if we could, because we did spend some time speaking about her character in the last movie. I think there's a substantial difference in Mary Jane's character in this one. So the last movie we talked about, she seemed kind of poorly written. Her characterization seemed to be a bit confused, and I guess you know as we talked about in the last one, she is more confused in that movie than in this one, but it seemed to stem from a combination of quote unquote daddy issues, trauma and all that, to I have a goal that I want to reach, to I don't know what kind of guy I want to date. And it seemed to be a lot of things that were happening in this character at once, and none of them were really played out in any conceivable way, which ends in a very confusing kiss at a funeral at the end of the movie. At the funeral of the father of her ex-boyfriend. Well, maybe not boyfriend, but close. But then coming into this movie, it seems that her character is a lot more solidified. It seems that she really seems to not only just have agency, which she did in the last movie, but her agency is more clear. She wants to be an actress, and she's accomplishing that goal. She does want Peter still, but Peter doesn't seem to want her.
And she makes that so abundantly clear.
Yeah. She wants him.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes in no uncertain, even like sexual terms that happen later on in the movie, where she's like, if you want to get on, you need to get on, Peter. And he's like, oh. There's so many times we were watching it today, Jesse and I, and Jesse's wife Liz. Shout out to Liz, name of the podcast. But we're watching it, and she's like, "Come on, dude, just say you like her." And I did like that she took the reins for her life, and she knows what she wants. She thinks that she knows how to get it and goes about it in that way. Mm-hmm. And I think that characterization is a lot different than the last one. And I want to know what you guys thought about that.
I mean, yeah, she transformed from like if she was my daughter, because that's the premise that we had last podcast.
Yeah.
From the daughter who I was just kind of like watching because she was so confused, and then if I gave her any advice, she'd just go out the window because I know she'd go with the flow with whatever happened to her as soon as she left my house. Mm-hmm. To now she's rational.
Yeah.
Like I could talk to her about all of her decisions, and all of her decisions just make so much sense. Like, yeah, she has a career now. She is fulfilling her dream of being the actress. She wants Peter, but says, okay, fine. If I can't get you, then I want a happy life for myself. And I know I want a man in my life. So there's this other guy, and he's an astronaut. Seems pretty good.
And he's like a pretty decent guy.
He's a cool dude.
He even like brings up to her like, hey, you don't want to invite your best friend that you talk about, Peter Parker? She's like, who? She's like, Peter Parker, your best friend?
The guy who means a lot to you?
And she goes, no, he turned out to be a great big jerk. And he's like, all right, cool.
World's full of them.
And then really awkward scene right there. Because then she says, hold on, I want to try something.
Yes.
And then like she makes him lean back, and then she kisses him upside down.
Yes.
And then after they're done, he says,
one of my favorite lines. I love this line.
I felt like I was back on the moon. Were you there with me?
I kind of dug it because, and then there's nothing.
And she doesn't say anything. Like, dude, that dude is kind of an idiot.
he's kind of an idiot, but I mean, I think that he's an idiot in the way that a normal guy would be an idiot because he's engaged to a woman that supposedly loves him. And he's like, this is what loving people say to each other. Like, I should be able to expect that you would think the same things as I would about our loving relationship. Yeah. And she's like, well, kind of a big ask for me, dude.
Yeah. And then after that, there's another really cool scene when she gets engaged and it's announced. And earlier in the movie, Harry says to Peter, like, whether she's looking at you or not looking at you, she wants you, right?
Yeah.
And she's pointedly not looking at Peter Parker, even though she knows that he's there.
Yeah.
And I don't think she's trying to torment him, but she's just like, this is what I have decided.
No. Not what it's what he decided. She put it out there for him. And he says, oh, I can't do that. And then she goes, okay, yeah, I'm going to get on with my life then. And I've already told you off, right. And I've told you that you've disappointed me, not only as a prospective lover, but as my supposedly best friend who can't make time out of his busy schedule. Everyone else in our circle of friends has come to support me in my grand endeavors, and you can't even do that.
And literally all he does is deliver pizzas. That's what she's thinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, you deliver pizzas, you can't make it to my play. I'm sorry, how busy are you?
My sick mother got out of bed. My abusive father came backstage to ask for money. Like, even the people who don't like me come to this. And you're my best friend, you can't do it. So it's not that she has chosen to do this. Right. He chose to be out of her life.
And she said, fine, I'm going to be a well-adjusted individual, and I'm going to move on from you.
Dude, it's real healthy.
It makes so much sense. Yeah, that's what I would want my daughter to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because now it seems like her head is firmly on her shoulders. She knows what she wants out of life. And she wants people that she loves to be there in her life if they want to be.
Yeah.
And Peter, through his actions, has shown he just doesn't want to be.
Yeah.
And then she makes a really gutsy move to go have coffee with Peter Parker at the little coffee shop.
She just wants to know.
She wants to know, do you love me?
She wants to know, do you love me? And then what she also wants to know with the kiss, are you Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You lied with your words. Can you lie with your actions? Or are they going to rat you
out?
Or
with your lips.
With your lips. With those sexy Tobey Maguire fish lips.
Yeah. At the end of Spider-Man 1, she kisses him and then she puts her hands to her lips. Like,
wait, was that him?
Familiar. Yes.
Yeah.
So she definitely suspects, and then she figures it out. And then she just runs away from that wedding where everybody was dressed in black.
It was
all
really
of the
weird.
bridesmaids.
Also, what I also noticed is I love that she has bridesmaids because I've never seen her interact with another female. There's just the one that says, "Hey, good job tonight." She goes, "Oh, thanks," and then the person walks away. But I think that person is one of the bridesmaids later on. She doesn't seem to have.
I think you're supposed to get the sense that they came up together, they helped each other become actresses. I don't know.
I guess by them both being
mind.
actresses and being in the same frame.
that's what you're supposed to get, I guess. Sisterhood or something.
What did you think about Mary Jane?
Oh yeah, I honestly think that it's an understandable character development. The path from being a young high school girl who doesn't know what she wants, who's had a lot of really bad things happen in her life, a really bad familial relationship, a bad relationship with her father, to becoming someone who is, they've gone through a lot of trouble and a lot of bad relationships and said, I know who I am. I know what I want to be. I've fought for the things that I want, like being an actress. And it's amazing. She's in an incredible performance. And I think it's really believable. I think she is a lot more fleshed out as a character, which you really like to see. And she's strong. She's confident in who she is, which is
growth from the last movie. She
it's
actually,
definitely
like Peter in a lot of ways sort of regressed. Actually, from knowing he was Spider-Man to this movie from the last one, it's like he's gotten a little bit more childish.
Yeah.
And he has to grow a lot by having New York beat him up. Which is actually kind of like a realistic character study, like that I've seen in my own life. The world's definitely beat me up, and I've grown up from it. But I like that there's another character along for the ride with him that has a really good arc, that is steeped in emotional maturity and steeped in lived in life lessons. Because it's really just the two of them. And then Harry is like, my dad died. I'm pissed about that. I'm going to be better than my dad was. Oh, that didn't work because I don't know everything in the world. There's a scene though where Harry, when the reactor is going wrong for the first time, he says, "Shut it down, Otto." And he goes, "No, I can't. It's just a spike." And he goes, "I have the money. You will do what I say." And he literally stomps his foot.
And that's kind of just his character for the whole movie.
Yes, he's a big old baby.
He's a huge baby.
And then the finalization of his arc is beautifully illustrated in the next film, which I'm very excited to talk about. But this movie is clearly MJ and Peter, whereas the first movie is kind of just Peter. It's nice there's someone else along for the ride for him that feels like an equal.
Yeah.
In fact, in a lot of ways, a better person than he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One cool scene that I noticed this time with Harry, in Spider-Man 1, Norman Osborn, whenever he drinks whiskey, it's Maker's Mark.
Yes.
They clearly pointed out at one point.
Yeah.
And when Harry goes and grabs the dagger to stab Spider-Man, right next to the dagger is a bottle of Maker's Mark.
Mm-hmm.
As if finally to symbolize, he is becoming the worst parts of his father.
Yeah.
All over again.
And later you see that apparently psychosis is genetic here.
Apparently. Avenge me! Yeah, where did that come from? I don't... Maybe Norman was just crazy all along? And
I think it's pretty heavily implied that Norman was crazy and that this serum just unlocked that side.
The full potential of his insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's sort of similar.
Cosmic.
I think that's sort of similar with what we get with Doc Ock, because he's really prideful about his work, right? He knows what his machine inside and out, knows nothing can go wrong. He's done his homework, I think he says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something goes terribly wrong. And
he refuses to admit that something goes wrong.
Yeah.
All the way through, he refuses to.
All the way through. And then when he has the mechanical arms telling him what to do, I kind of don't really think that they're really taking control of him fully. I think
not there. I don't think they're taking control.
I think the whole time he's plotting, I think that's 50-50, him plus the arms. I think that's him.
Wait.
Almost the entire way.
Oh, okay.
Really? You think? Oh, huh.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think that happens later, but I think that the full cooperation that he has with the arms is, I think they're feeding off the dark underside of psychosis, just like with Norman Osborn. Talking about the shared insanity and instability that is present in great men.
Okay.
But then I think that scene is really the scene when he's sitting in the abandoned building and they're sort of looping around his head, hissing and reacting sort of in real time to his self-destructive fantasies. Where he's really grappling with the fact, like, those people are dead. I saw them all dead. Is this my fault? Whose fault is this? What am I supposed to do? Maybe I should kill myself.
His wife died because of him, because of his pride.
And what he says is, no, I didn't go wrong. Like, I guess what I'm trying to point out is that, like, he's still the same kind of person.
Yes.
It just, he has more power in this. I guess basically what I was saying last podcast. Yes. That he's still basically the same person, just with more power now. To do something bigger. More
power, and there's, just like with that one, though, there's a quote-unquote outside factor, right?
Yes.
So there's a serum for Norman, and then for Octavius, there is the addition of this artificial intelligence, quote-unquote.
Mm-hmm.
But each one, its only goal is to really just unlock something deeper in their own minds. So the external force, quote-unquote, is actually like what you would maybe call like a psychedelic drug. Like it opens something inside of you that was always there, but was never allowed to take control. I guess there's some forwarding idea you could talk about.
I don't know. I wonder though. So the arms are made. The purpose of the arms, the AI in the arms, is made to basically create this machine. So when the inhibitor chip, the MacGuffin, breaks, they seek to achieve their end. They try to go and do whatever it takes to make this thing.
But sorry to interrupt you, but that desire is the same as Otto's.
It is, but Otto himself is so much more than that. I mean, there's the scene which is kind of beautiful where he's talking about love, and he tells Peter, love something as complicated as love should never be a secret.
Yeah, it'll make you sick.
It'll make you sick, which it does for Peter. And he talks about T.S. Eliot, like the Four Quartets, even like very unexpected.
Wait, hold on. They talk about the Four Quartets?
I think it's an oblique reference.
No, he says time and time again.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
It's
sorry. So Mike is our residing poet laureate. That's actually not a joke.
Of the three of us,
yes. Take your mantle, Mike.
Sure. No, but I mean, it's kind of crazy to hear him.
Which page is that one on in the Four Quartets?
It's on the first page.
Oh.
So I read the first page of the Four Quartets at one point.
But what I want to just point out briefly to the audience is I set that up as a mean joke at Mike's expense, to which Mike immediately rebounded it. No, I am the residing poet laureate. All right, eat my dust.
No, I mean either way, like he's got so much more to him, and he talks about love in such a beautiful and full way. And he's really he gets he develops a love for Peter as a person. It's like this guy is incredibly intelligent and gifted and wants him to succeed, and so you see he's got this incredible character that then gets completely shut down because the arms take control. And I think that you are meant to clearly see a delineation between Otto Octavius, the man, and Doc Ock, who's been taken over by the dark side of his character.
Yes,
but it's the dark side that he put. It's not like he would ever, without those arms, have gone that direction.
That's what I mean by that external force, because that's the same thing with Norman.
Okay.
There has to be something that like the Joker would say is like the push.
Yeah, I think what I had said was...
But it's more than a push into, like, being a bad person. It's a push to being insane.
Yeah.
Well, I still don't think it's quite insane. Well, like I said, I think it's a 50-50 split between Octavius and the arms. Because, like, Octavius also wants the machine built. But I think going back to, like, the poetry part, right? Like, I think he says, like, love is the most difficult thing to comprehend, something like that.
Yeah.
As if to say, it's almost as if to say, like, that's really what makes you human. And it's crazy because he's a brilliant scientist saying that. Like, you can't understand love. And that is the part of the arm. The arms don't understand that because they're just simple mechanical AI.
Yeah.
All they understand is like, yeah, let's build the machine. And that is the part that kind of takes over. But again, that's still Octavius. The machine part is what's left, and what's taken out is the love. And that finally comes back at the very end when Peter Parker takes off his mask to show him, like, I am Peter Parker. I am this guy you have a relationship with. Please shut this down. And then
it's so cool. Like that's such a cool moment when he pulls off the mask, and Doc Ock, who's sort of Otto now, but like he's at war with his arms. He like recognizes him. It's so much like you said, the movie's so much about these one-on-one relationships with people. And that's like the moment when Pete reveals himself to
it's revealing
to Ock.
Revealing the power of love, which allows him to become fully human instead of partly AI.
And then he beautifully, he's pulling it down. He says, I will not die a monster.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, he's a step more human than Norman ever could, because Norman dies at his own hand,
a monster.
He does, but then he has a moment with Peter at the end of everything, and it's not enough, but it's not even much.
Don't tell Harry.
Yeah.
Even that line is a lie. He wants to perpetuate a lie.
But it's not evil. It's not evil that he would want that.
It's prideful.
What it shows is shame. What it shows is shame for his actions. And shame is kind of a part of redemption. I mean, Otto has it. Otto has a chance to do something about it. And Norman doesn't. And so I'm saying that Otto is a much more fully realized and much more human character, because he realizes his downfall before it happens. And if he realizes his downfall on the eve of his victory, actually.
Yeah.
And is able to stop that and reverse it. Whereas Norman only kind of remembers his humanity a little bit after everything's already over.
Yeah.
I think he remembers it before, at the end of like that scene with Norman Osborn, when he starts telling Harry, like, help me fight this goblin. He's the one that's making me do everything, right?
Yeah.
I think he's telling the truth. I think he can fight that thing. He's just too weak.
Yeah.
He just kind of chooses not to, because the goblin grants all his wildest dreams to come true.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing can be said for Octavius's arms. He's actually finally achieving quote unquote fusion. And that's what would make him great.
I guess that's what I'm pointing out.
He's able to like choose to not do that. He's able to pull himself out of his spiral, and Norman cannot until it's already been decided for him that he's dead.
Yeah. But in both cases, I think they could have.
It's possible, I guess.
Because they both have the same connection to Harry, and if the love conquers all theme is still alive in Spider-Man 1, which I think it is.
Yeah.
Then he could have. He just chooses to wallow in the Green Goblin side of himself.
Sure.
Which is what sets Octavius apart from Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
It makes him a much more interesting and compelling villain.
Yeah, you are who you choose to be, says Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so it's a rich text. It's got a lot going for it.
Yeah.
But I do think that we should probably move on into I don't know what our personal histories are with this movie. We started with Jesse last time. Maybe we start with Mike. Do you want to start this time?
Yeah, sure. So, I've still, coming into this movie, I carried a lot of the things that I came to the first one with. Spider-Man is one of probably my favorite Marvel superhero. I think he's everyone's favorite Marvel superhero. He's kind of somehow always just a guy.
Yeah.
And he's an everyman.
Just a brilliant.
The world is kind of beating him down, and he keeps getting back up to fight, which is just so cool. And so I was really excited to see it. I don't really remember seeing it. I think I saw it in theaters when it came out, but it wasn't. I didn't love it as much as I loved the first one. I know that I remember that. But it was still a blast, and seeing it again more recently, it's a blast and a half. So
a blast and a half out of 2 blasts.
Out of 2.3 blasts.
Oh, getting really technical with fusion.
With fusion, yeah,
I'd have to say I share your
yeah.
perspective there too. I did not see it in theaters. Again, I have a hazy HBO VHS DVD relationship with this movie. Seen it in many pieces over many years. Can't remember the first time I fully saw the whole thing. Definitely remember the first time I saw Spider-Man 2.1. It's a movie that I did not like as much as the first one for a long time, a really long time. And it's really only in even just the rewatches that we did for this show that I really got a good sense of what the whole movie was. Because I just knew so many parts so well, like the car scene. I'd seen that scene so many times. I have actually a distinct memory of being in Albertsons with my mother going shopping, and they had a big TV display, and Spider-Man 2 just came out on DVD. And I remember standing there watching while like my mom bought pickles and stuff. And I watched that whole car scene just standing there in a grocery store.
Jaw dropped.
Wow. So it's an amorphous movie for me that I was finally able to sort of nail down in the last several weeks, just trying to codify it in my mind and make it of a piece. So as for nostalgia for this one, the first one I have a ton of nostalgia for. For this one, I don't have a lot. It was a movie that existed that everyone talked about that I had definitely seen. It didn't remember very well. And now with this rewatch, I got to say it's stellar. It's incredible. Yeah. It's a real achievement.
Yeah. I don't think I remember the first time I saw it in theaters really, but I remember coming out of the theaters and just thinking that's the coolest movie I've ever seen. I think like this was the third or fourth superhero movie to have ever come out. And finally, with the CGI enhancements, like the fights in the first one were pretty good, especially that last scene. That was really intense. But you don't get the really flashy fights.
They're not very acrobatic. You know, the first ones. It's a lot of like one kick, one punch, you know.
Yeah. And as a kid, just like, I think I was like 12 when I saw this.
Sure.
So to be able to see Doc Ock and Spider-Man fighting on the side of a train, so cool. Where he's slingshotting himself out of the train, back out, and then he gets thrown and then lands into Doc Ock again. Doc Ock grabs a couple people, throws them. Spider-Man quickly makes some webs. Like, that is such a cool, like, fast-paced action sequence where you can still keep track of everything that's going on. Or even the clock tower scene, or the tower scene.
Tower's great.
Yeah. Where he's throwing the arms down.
I love it. He throws the one arm down.
Yeah.
Spider-Man dodges it, catches it with the web, slingshots it back up. He breaks the key again, throws it back down. He dodges. It's so cool.
I knew that fight like inside and out when I was 12. That was so cool. I'd never seen anything like that ever.
Yeah.
And then just beyond that, I really connected with Peter Parker the first time I saw that movie. It wasn't even connection. I just realized I could be like him. He runs into a burning building and doesn't have any powers. And I was like, you know what? I can do that too. What's to stop me from risking my life for people? What's to stop me from actually being a hero in my day-to-day life?
Right.
So those two things, plus like finally, I guess this movie set me up for failure for later sequels, because this sequel is kind of perfect. Like, especially with that Aunt May scene, like there are so many movies where like the next movie doesn't like give you closure to things that happened in the first one, and this one
it's a really neat bookend.
Yeah, it wraps up quite a bit nicely.
It wraps up every storyline except for Harry.
Yeah,
and even Harry, it like delivers a really satisfying payoff where like he finally figures out what his dad was.
Yeah,
and why he was even dead in the first place. You know, like not who killed him, but why he was dead. He was a Green Goblin. That's why Spider-Man had beef with him. Yeah. That's really the only plotline that's not resolved.
Yeah.
Everything else, like him and MJ's relationship is resolved. Aunt May's thing is resolved. Peter Parker and Spider-Man's identity is resolved. Like, it all just kind of moves.
Mm-hmm. Like, if they could have stopped it here, and I would have been happy. I think, besides the Harry thing, I would have always wondered, what on earth would Harry have done?
Sure. I mean, we're all still sitting here wondering what happened to the Sinister Six movie that was supposed to happen after Amazing Spider-Man 2. Every day, just refreshing my Sony newsfeed.
I don't wonder, because I would think that'd be an utter failure.
I'd probably defend it vigorously.
I'm sure you would. But I'll defend this movie vigorously because it's
against no attackers.
Against no attackers. Bring them on. Bring them on all the air that's coming my way.
Yes. All the people that don't like this.
This was not only my favorite superhero movie, but my favorite movie. And then later, after The Dark Knight came out, it's
a handy number 2.
It's a handy number 2, and still is the second best superhero movie I've ever seen, even now.
Strong words.
That's
Love
awesome.
them. Love them.
Awesome.
Well, maybe moving over. Mike, I just wanted to check in with you. Do you got any best lines, worst lines you want to lay on us?
Oh my gosh, yes. So this movie,
chock full of them.
You need a beat? I could drop a beat.
Oh yeah, I need a beat.
Beat.
I love it. I'm so pumped right now. So, I mean, this movie is chock full of just hilarious moments, scenes that are just amazing, like the elevator scene, and which
the
is
elevator
hilarious.
scene's really great.
It's so good. It's so good. And just one line is J. Jonah Jameson is. I mean, he kills it.
When
He
Peter
kills
asks
it.
to be paid in advance,
He just laughs.
he says, "Wait, you serious?"
8 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, what are I paying for? Standing there?
Pete, you're fired.
Yes.
Boss, the event. Oh, you're hired.
You're unfired.
You're unfired. Come back. One of my favorites of his is when his secretary, what's her? Who is
Betty Brant.
Betty Brant. Betty Brant
Played by
says,
Elizabeth Banks.
"Boss, your wife's on the line. She said she lost her checkbook. Thanks for the good news." It's so good. It's so good.
What I love about it is that every time that he could really like dig in juicy with a line, he casts it off. He throws it as fast as possible, as quietly as possible out.
Yeah.
And I love that he has that good of a line. He doesn't overplay it. He goes, "Thanks for the good news," and then it's done. Like it's finished in half a second. He's like, done.
It's done.
It's like the whole news agency is just the movie His Girl Friday at all times.
It's so good. And even just like Spider-Man comes into his own in this movie with like the really bad jokes while he's fighting bad guys. It's so funny. And even with Doc Ock as well is also really cheesy. Like
Butterfingers.
Butterfingers. And it's like when the train's coming on, he says, "You've got a train to catch," and he throws him onto the train. It's so cool. In the scene in the bank, here's your change when Spider-Man throws the bag of money.
Yeah.
Just the bag of money. Like,
Yes.
Are there really bags of money in banks?
No.
I don't.
No, because in this alternate universe, the gold standard is still in place.
Which, we could talk about that forever.
We probably should.
We really should. So I mean, there's tons of great lines and stuff like that. But maybe the funniest is when Peter Parker is on his way to MJ's play, and there's a car chase going on behind him. And all of a sudden, the car is about to run him over on his ghetto bike. And he jumps up into the air and lands on his feet. And there's a couple of young kids there. They say, "Whoa! How'd you do that?"
That was totally wicked.
Pretty much. "Oh, work out, plenty of sleep, eat your green vegetables." He says, "That's exactly what my mama says." It's great.
Never believed her.
He's never actually believed her. It's so good. I think that the best bad line is when Peter is at the charity event and he's found out that MJ is engaged, and he goes and he finds her finally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very cringy. He offers to go get her a drink, and she says, "My fiance will do that.
He'll get me my drinks." Yeah.
And then Peter says, "Well, I've been reading poetry." And she says, "Whatever that means." It's so good. It's so good. It's amazing. I love it.
Well, what does MJ's defense? What does that mean?
Exactly. What does that mean? What does it mean?
Yeah.
it's a cheesy line, and she's acknowledging it.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It's like she's reading the script and then sees that line, and her response is like, whatever that means. Like, clarify your lines.
And then he says, punch me, I bleed.
That's in the later scene when they're walking. Yeah. When he realizes he doesn't have his powers.
Yeah.
And it's punch me, I bleed, which is delivered with aching sincerity.
So much sincerity.
Which is more humiliating for Peter Parker and, by extent, Tobey Maguire. Because that is the worst way you could deliver this line.
It's the worst line that you delivered the worst way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's chock full. Chock full.
I love these. And you did mention you had a essential line for the movie. The beating heart.
Well, I think so. I mean, I think there's kind of an essential part of Spider-Man, and I think that the scene after the scene where Peter Parker tells Aunt May that he is responsible for Uncle Ben's death is when he goes and he sees her again. It's been a couple of weeks, and she's moving because she's been foreclosed on.
Yeah.
And
probably because of that $20 that she gave Peter.
Yeah, seriously. And I kind of want to read it because it's just it's so powerful what she says. And
is this about the boy?
Yeah, it's about the boy. It's about the young boy Henry, who looks up to Spider-Man. And Peter's kind of wondering like why. What Aunt May says is, we need a hero, courageous, sacrificing people, setting examples for all of us. Everybody loves a hero. People line up for him, cheer for them, scream their names, and years later tell how they stood in the rain for hours just to get a glimpse of the one who told them to hold on a second longer. I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, and makes us noble. And finally gets us to die with pride. Even though sometimes we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most, even our dreams.
It's a great line.
It's incredible. And that's the story of the movie. That's who Spider-Man is. That's who Peter Parker is. And what we have in the movie is him kind of warring over whether or not he can continue to be that person. And then finally at the end, what he does, he holds on a second longer with the train until it crumples behind him. His body is racked and breaks on the train. And then he continues to fight. He continues to fight. Mm-hmm. And then he goes and he fights. He knocks Doc Ock out and gets him to a place where he's able to listen to Pete. And the arms are kind of knocked out as well. But Otto wakes up. Mm-hmm. And he says those lines. He says what Aunt May told him to him. Sometimes we have to be steady and give up the things we want the most, even our dreams. And it's so beautiful. And what Doc Ock does, what Otto does then, he fights and gains control of his own mind over the arms. And he has the moment that Pete helps him to finally die with pride, not a monster. It's so amazing and so cool. And what I think makes Spider-Man in this movie, especially this story, so powerful, and such a loving, such an object of love by so many people.
I think it's well argued, well pointed out, and all I want to add to it is that really in the end, I guess Spider-Man is vindicated. Yes, selfish. He was wrong,
but he was right.
He swears he's right, and he swears he knew it all along. Yes,
he's seen in himself the things that
Aunt May saw.
Yeah, all along.
Yeah, all along. And so did Otto. Yeah, Otto was.
So did Dr. Connors, by the way, who.
That's true.
Might have been somebody.
He should have been, and R.I.P. Spider-Man 4. Well, I think Jesse, you got anything to weigh in on that?
I think you just about summed that up pretty beautifully. I don't really have anything more to add.
Beautiful. Well, do we have any what if questions? I was teased at the beginning of this episode. I was teased relentlessly with the possibility of an earth-shattering, mind-blowing what if question, and I will be sorely disappointed if this is anything less than that. Right, Mike?
I would die.
Yeah, I've got
Not with
a really strange one. What if we had a Nicolas Cage as Doc Ock?
Oh yes, I would love that.
Oh yeah, it works.
I would love that.
Oh my gosh.
No, yeah, in
110%.
Yeah.
I wish that was the case. I love Alfred Molina in this movie. He does a fantastic job, fantastic actor. But Nick Cage in this role,
he's got the slight amount of camp that you need.
Yes,
and also
he could deliver. You've got a train to catch.
He's got the right amount of insanity available.
Yes.
Yeah,
I will feel the skin from her bone. I will feel it. But he'd probably go like way too hard, and so it would be like him being like, "I have a message for Spider-Man."
That would have been so amazing, though. Yeah.
What could have been?
What
could possibly be?
I want that. I just want that. Look, it could work. Nick Cage is up for anything these days.
Dude, anything.
He's
always been.
You got Michael Keaton as the Vulture in the new one. Just get Nick Cage as Doc Ock. What are you missing? I want it.
Yeah, could you imagine him with those like round sunglasses too?
The power of the sun in my hand. I don't even know if that was a Nick Cage impression, but like I was just trying to imagine it in my head.
Yeah, he would have made the character stand out a little more, I think. But I do love Doc Ock in this movie.
You would be missing the quiet dignity that Alfred Molina really brings to this role. This nobility of character and spirit. Which I think is really important to it, but I think it's really important to it because he brings it. You know, like this character could be read in a different way, and I think it would work too.
He's like an underplayer.
Yes,
like he's he could be crazy, but he's a very soft sort of actor, and a lot
every
of
line that could be shouted is just whispered. That's a great way to put it. It's just a soft playing and underplaying. It's amazing.
Yeah,
and in the very little bit that we see of him before he becomes Doc Ock, like when he tells the cheesy joke about the money. Did anyone lose a big fat roll of $20 bills in a rubber band? Well, we found the rubber band.
He has the worst delivery.
We found the rubber band, but because it's apropos of nothing.
Yeah.
No one was talking about money.
Yeah,
the money was not. No one was talking about rubber bands even.
No one is there for this.
Yes. It's the quintessential dad joke.
Yes.
He is so dad.
It's unasked for and not appreciated. Oh man, I love that what if question. I do have a quick game. I think just a quick trivia moment. How many arms does Doc Ock have? I just want to pitch this out to the table.
2.
No.
Think carefully.
I'm going to go with 6 arms, but he also has 2 legs, and part of what makes an octopus is having 8 arms. So to be Doc Ock, to be Dr. Octopus, you'd have to say his legs are also arms. Yeah. So I'm going to go with 8 arms.
You'd have to say that you are discounting the amount of work that his underarm hair is doing. So the correct answer is 10 arms. 10 arms.
He has so much.
It's a lot of underarm hair.
You see so much of it. How could I forgot?
The arms are always coming up, and you're like, look at those little arms down there. Like they're just reaching out, trying to grab you. I wanted a scene where Doc Ock grabs Spider-Man and just like forces his head into his armpit. Pushing Spider-Man.
Or a scene where he just shoots his webs out at the armpits, pulls back, and just whacks.
Just whacks. He like screams, like a 40-year-old virgin, just like screams in pain as the hair is ripped off of his body.
That should have been the way Spider-Man won.
Exactly. That's actually it. That's all I have for trivia. This is it's not a movie that I want to laugh at too much. Even finding stuff in it, I think it's not too high-minded. It doesn't take itself very seriously, but it is a very sincere movie that really has its heart right on its sleeve, and just really wants you to engage with it on that level. And I think in that way, it's actually immune to a lot of criticism about its dramatic structure or about even just the way it stages at certain scenes. is that it's trying to be as open and honest with you and not pull any punches or do any tricks. It just wants you to have its story, its beautiful, loving story. That is a love letter not only to comics and to action heroes, but also to being a good human, being a functioning member of society, being good to your loved ones. So I don't want to take away too much from that with bits. But I just had to mention his armpit hair. It's too much for me. One thing I would change in the movie, just shade. Boy, well, I think that pretty much does it for me. What are you guys thinking? How do you feel?
I'm wondering, Vito, do you think this is a dad movie?
I'd have to say yes.
What about you, Jesse?
1,000% yes. My kids need to see this movie.
In fact, your kids were in the room various times today while the movie was on.
Well, at least one of them was.
At least one of them, who, if I recall, was laying on a pillow in the other room going, I don't like Spider-Man. So you got an uphill battle with that one.
She doesn't like any movies that are so cursed.
But my daughter, I was very happy, sat with us through the majority of the movie. I took her in the other room. Don't worry, internet. I took her in the other room for the surgery sequence. I did not want her to see that.
Yeah.
But she sat with it, and she has a good history with Spider-Man. And I think that weirdly, this movie is more family friendly than the first one. Like the first one there's so much like gothic, like schizophrenic horror.
Yeah.
And this one is very much about a man who is conflicted, and it's easy to see.
It's just trying really hard. Like the one thing my daughter said while she's watching it from her pillow was it was a train sequence, and after he's being handed down, she's just like, he needs to be more careful.
She's watching like the windows blow out and everything. She's like, that's not how I would have done it.
Yeah, but it's just so relatable for kids that way. You can see like just the plain emotions. It's so straightforward and so obvious that I would want my kids to watch it at a younger age as well.
I would almost I would rather that Marin watch this movie a couple of times before I show her the first one. Because like this one, there's just so much to enjoy as a kid and so much to get out of it that the first one it's just concerned with different things. It's much more of like a teenage movie.
Yeah.
And this one is more accessible to everybody, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you're a small child. And there's many small kids in the movie that actually have like fairly big speaking roles. There's the kid that makes the joke about like, how'd you do that? There's the kids at the end, which I think are Sam Raimi's kids in the train who hand him back his mask.
Oh,
and
cool.
it's very easy iconography. Really easy to get. You could watch it on mute and you would get what's happening.
Yeah. Like when your daughter Marin saw that scene, she's just like, "Oh, they're giving Spider-Man back his mask so he can be Spider-Man."
Yes. Yes.
So,
And you're like, yes, that is the scene.
Yeah. That's it.
You are not 3 and you get it.
How about you?
But I think I'd agree. I still have my hang-ups on superheroes in general. So I think I might show it a little bit later.
There's
to
actually,
my kids.
it seems like there's less exceptionalism in this movie than the
Yeah,
first one.
there definitely is. You're definitely more in the realm of everyone. Yeah, I mean,
if anything, it's exceptional that Peter Parker is so beat on.
Yeah,
He's exceptionally abused.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he's like a millennial. Just had to throw that out.
It's good. It's good.
But yeah, no, definitely a dad movie. Definitely something that I'm going to show to my kids, and I'm really excited to. Not sure when yet.
Yeah,
but I know I will.
Yeah, this is my top 5 to watch. I think one of my top 5 to watch with my kids.
Nice
on the couch with them.
Nice.
Like cool. I'm so excited to show them this finally. Yeah.
Wow. So I think we got all those out of the way then. I mean, we're all going to show it. It is a dad movie, and we're going to show it soon, like as soon as we can conceivably see possible to our kids.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to in the future sort of turning it on, like if I'm sick or if I'm tired or something, and I know I can turn on Spider-Man 2, and as long as I fast forward through the surgery scene, the whole thing can play out and it's fine.
Yeah.
I feel really comforted by that. And Marin is just like, oh, I get that. Why that's happening. Oh, that's happening. It makes her sound like Mario. But
your daughter is Mario.
She sounds a little bit like Mario. Yeah.
She jumps on things.
The mustache does not help.
A weird 3-year-old with a mustache.
Hey, it's a disorder.
She's a beautiful girl.
Thank you. Yes. She
so
is actually mustache-less.
She is actually beautiful.
Yes. Well, I think we're done. I think we've reached the end of Spider-Man 2 for now until we stop recording, in which case we'll probably have like a part 2 episode of all the stuff that we missed.
There's so much stuff that we missed.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Mr. Dinklage at all.
Oh my god.
Or Bruce Campbell.
Or the Doctor?
Who's also a doctor in 30 Rock.
Wait, really?
Not
Dr.
It's not Dr. Spitchett.
No, okay,
it's a different, but it's also a doctor in 30 Rock.
You seem very okay to me.
Yes. Actually, kind of
She
reminds
tells
me
me
of the.
I need some strong focus on what I want, and I have to find out who will let me have it and why, and then I have to tackle that guy and let him hear me in something else. I have to be sure I'm right about what I want. It's like, I don't know if this is really helpful.
Oh boy. Well, for everyone here at Not Your Father's Movies, I am Vito.
I'm Mike.
I'm Jesse.
And join us next episode for 2007's Spider-Man 3, the conclusion of the Sam Raimi trilogy. Some might say
it's already ended.
In the top 3 of the trilogy, is what I was going to say.
Some might say it's not.
They would be wrong. Just categorically.
They would be.
Yes. Many people will say many things. We will be some of those people saying some of those things, and some of it will definitely be wrong. Jesse. But until then, signing off. Take it.
Hey everyone, this is Mike from Not Your Father's Movies. Thank you so much for listening. If you've got any questions on tonight's episode, thoughts on movies that should or should not be in the dad canon, and most importantly, things Vito got wrong, we'd literally love to hear from you. Shoot us an email with anything you got at notyourfathersmovies@gmail.com. That's notyourfathersmovies@gmail.com. And if that's not enough for you and you want more ways to listen to us, reach us, share us, and support us, check out our website at nyfm.podbean.com. That's nyfm.podbean.com. Shout out to Max Agros for our sick theme music. Thank you, Max, and thank you all again for listening to us. Have a great night.